Hello everyone. Today I am going to be reviewing 100 policies that, according to YouGov polling, at least 50% of both Republicans and Democrats agree. Just some quick notes on how I formatted this. If there is a -R next to the policy, that means Republicans approve of it less than 60%. If there is a -D on the policy, that means Democrats approve of it less than 60%. And if there is a -RD, both Republicans and Democrats approve less than 60%. However, on every single policy listed, a majority of both Republicans and Democrats approve. All of these poll numbers are taken from YouGov. Some of these policies may already be law since it was between 2020 and 2022, and I will provide a link to my source in the description. So starting out with education, we have increased security spending at schools, increased mental health spending at schools, though this has less approval among Republicans, add financial classes to high schools, public investment in trade schools and other alternative tertiary education, require high schools to stock Narcan anti-overdose medication, and provide free lunch to low-income students. On elections and government, ban lobbyists from participating in redistricting. District drawings must be public. Require public input in redistricting. Districts must be drawn by a nonpartisan independent commission. Require states to make voting more accessible for people with disabilities. Affirm that the vice president has no role in validating the presidential election beyond overseeing the counting process. This has less approval from Republicans. Require presidential candidates to take a drug test, and require presidential candidates to take a cognitive exam. Require presidential candidates to publicly disclose their health record. This has less support from Republicans. Term limits for the Supreme Court, less support from Republicans. Require former presidents to hand over all documents to the National Archives. Maximum age limit to hold public office. Ban candidates from receiving donations via cryptocurrency. Offer straight ticket voting. This has under 60% support from both Republicans and Democrats, but a majority support from both. Limit spending by non-candidate affiliated groups in elections, less support from Republicans. Make Election Day a national holiday, less support from Republicans. On the subject of family and reproductive care, passed the Equal Rights Amendment. This is a failed amendment from the 80s that required the equality of gender in law. That has majority support from everyone, but less than 60% from Republicans. Legalizing abortion when a woman's life is in danger. Legalize abortion in case of rape or incest. Exempt diapers from state sales tax, less support from Republicans. Legalize contraceptives throughout the United States, less support from Republicans. Legalize right for adult children of sperm and egg donors to learn their donor's identity. This has under 60% support from both Republicans and Democrats, but a majority support from both. Continuing family and reproductive care, require baby changing tables in men's and women's restrooms. Require companies to provide paid parental leave to mothers and fathers. Ensure people who have lost a pregnancy are not subject to investigation. This has less support from Republicans. Expand access and affordability of birth control. This has less support from Republicans. Require private health plans to cover birth control. This has less support from Republicans. Regarding foreign policy, accept refugees fleeing from Ukraine, engage in prisoner exchanges with hostile foreign powers. This has less support from Republicans. Expand the number of Afghans eligible for refugee status. This has less support from Republicans. Allow Ukraine to join NATO. This has less support from Republicans. Donate excess COVID vaccines to developing countries. I'm not sure if this is relevant anymore. However, both parties support it over 60%. And require employers to use E-Verify to establish the legal status of immigrants. This has less support from Democrats. On guns, Prevent people with a history of mental illness from owning guns. Require criminal and mental background check on all gun sales. This notably includes gun shows. Require 5-day waiting period to buy a handgun. Create red flag laws to allow guns to temporarily be taken away from people believed to pose a danger. This has less support among Republicans. Expand gun background checks to include juvenile records, and raise the minimum age to buy assault weapons to 21. This has less support from Republicans. Regarding healthcare, allow people to travel to other states to receive medical treatment which is illegal in their state. This would mostly apply to abortions and gender-affirming care. Restrict nicotine levels in cigarettes to be less addictive. This has less support among Republicans. Extend Medicare coverage to include dental, vision, and hearing. Require childhood vaccinations against measles, mumps, and rubella. Ban filler injections for people under 18 for non-medical reasons. This has less support from Democrats. Allow people to purchase glasses or contact lenses without a prescription. This has under 60% support from both Republicans and Democrats, but a majority support from both parties. Require prescription drug makers to disclose their prices in TV commercials. Provide people who cannot afford it free health care for their children. Legalize life-ending medication for terminally ill people. This has less support from Republicans. Provide some debt relief for medical debt. This has less support from Republicans. Continuing on health care, increase funding for in-home care for elderly people or people with disabilities. Provide more counseling for people with mental illnesses as an approach to end homelessness. Fund more rehabilitation programs for drugs as an approach to end homelessness. Incentivize developers to build more low-income housing as an approach to homelessness. Funding more emergency rental assistance programs as a solution to end homelessness. This has less support from Republicans. Building housing for chronically homeless people to live in. This has less support from Republicans. For infrastructure and the environment, replace all lead pipes to make drinking water clean. Make daylight savings time permanent. Ban the testing of pesticides and other products on cats and dogs. Limit the ownership of big cats to wildlife sanctuaries, universities, and certified zoos. This has less support from Republicans. However, I believe in December 2022, Congress passed a law very similar to this. Increase federal spending on infrastructure construction and repair. This has less support from Republicans. Incentivize businesses to compost or donate food instead of throwing it away. Prohibit coal companies from depositing waste into local streams. Ban large grocery stores from throwing away food which could be donated or sold. And plant 1 trillion trees to absorb carbon. Regarding policing and crime, outfit all police officers with body cameras. Train officers to de-escalate conflicts instead of using force. Require law enforcement agencies to report data on use of force. Ban officers from using neck restraints. This has less support among Republicans. Create a national registry to track police misconduct. End police quotas for stops, tickets, and arrests. This has less support from Republicans. Allow death row inmates to choose someone by their side during execution. This has less support from Republicans. Require police officers to intervene if another officer is using excessive force. This has less support from Republicans. Expunge marijuana-related convictions for nonviolent offenders. This has less support from Republicans. Make it illegal to encourage someone to kill themselves. This has less support from Democrats. Continuing policing and crime, make it illegal for pedestrians to look at their cell phone while crossing the street. This has less support from Democrats. Make it illegal to joke about having a bomb on an airplane. Require rape kits to be submitted to the lab within a specific time frame. Arrest perpetrators of intimate partner violence even if the victim opposes prosecution. Make it illegal for clergy to exploit an adult congregant's emotional dependency on them for sex. Require police officers to document every instance they point a gun at someone. and require clergy to report plausible cases of child abuse even if told during spiritual confession. This has less support among Republicans. However, I believe this is already the law for psychiatrists. Moving on to technology, ban social media sites from collecting data on users under the age of 18, require search engines to allow users to opt out of targeted sensitive ads, require all smartphone manufacturers to use the same charging connectors. This has less support from Republicans. Ensure universal access to high-speed internet, increase fines on spam robocalls, and require social media sites to identify bots to users as computer-generated accounts. On the subject of work in corporations, all of these policies have majority support from Republicans, but less than 60% support. Conduct antitrust probes into major companies, provide advanced training to workers in manufacturing and other industries, increase the number of available national service positions, close tax loopholes which allow corporations to create tax havens, banning corporations guilty of wage theft from bidding on government contracts, make it illegal to fire or refuse to hire a person for being transgender, and raise the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour. And those are all the policies. Some statistics for you. 38 out of 100 policies, only Republicans agree less than 60%. 4 out of 100 policies, only Democrats agree less than 60%. And on 3 out of 100 policies, both Democrats and Republicans agree less than 60%. Though I will remind you that on every single policy listed, a majority of both Republicans and Democrats approve. In total, 55 of these policies could form a platform in which every policy has 60% approval from both parties. Here are some conclusions. These are just my opinions. When politicians promote bipartisanship, it's not usually these policies which get through, meaning that bipartisanship isn't about finding agreement between constituents. It's about finding agreements between politicians, which is not the same thing, because oftentimes bipartisan agreement from politicians just means doing what their donors want them to. I also note that Democratic voters are more centrist-minded than Republican voters, since of the policies that have majority approval from both sides, more of those Republicans are less likely to support those policies that have a majority on either side. Maybe there's a different statistical explanation for this, but that is my interpretation of the data. And then finally, many of these policies would be painted as extreme by the media. The most striking for me was that we should construct housing for the chronically homeless. This is called a housing first solution to homelessness and is considered a pretty radical idea. It's how progressives approach homelessness, that instead of all these different programs around it, you should just give them houses. But it has 53% support from Republicans. So I found that quite interesting. And with that, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, like it. If you disliked the video, dislike it. And sound off in the comments with your answers to any of these questions. Did any of the policies surprise you? Did you think they were more divided partisanly than they actually were? Did you disagree with any of these policies? Remember, their majority support, not 100%. And would you vote for a candidate who had just these policies as their platform? I'd like to hear your answers in the comments. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.